welcome to the Prigya Arora Show, where we promote entrepreneurship in law through conversations with people who have been there and done that. My name is Prigya Arora, founder of PA Legal, an intellectual property law firm in India, and our guest for today is Advocate Jayant Bhatt. He has over a decade of experience in the legal industry and he runs a very interesting YouTube channel called Sue You Soon. So if you're not following him, follow him right away because he speaks about law, career, and leadership. Let us directly dive into a conversation with him. Hello and welcome, sir. So let us begin with can you tell us a short story about yourself and mainly how you became the person you are today because of the story you have lived?
Right. So, first of all, ma'am, thank you so much for having me on your show. I think it's a great initiative to bring legal awareness in our industry and also for the common man. Uh, Stories are nothing great, nothing out of the ordinary. Just come from a very regular middle class family who was struggling in science when he decided to choose law as a career. I was guided by my Mama ji, who gave me the prospectus and then told me that law is a good option, for people who have at least some command over language. And he always believed that my language was still okay, and law was something perhaps in which I could have built my career. So that's how it started for me. And as popularly people say, rest is history. I went to law school in 2002, graduated in the year 2007, then did my masters, two masters in 1 year because of this unique program at that point in time, which was called NYU at NUS, which means New York University, in collaboration with National University of Singapore, and the first of its kind program in the world back then. I don't think it's in existence anymore. I think they had about 5 to 7 batches. And then I started my professional journey, was in Middle East when I started my career because I had some education loan that I had to repay for my masters. uh, got that done, came back to India in 2010 middle, joined Mr. Amit Sibbal's chamber, who is now a senior lawyer, a very prominent lawyer of the country. Then had a stint with Mr. Shivaji Jadhav, who is an advocate on record in the Supreme Court of India. Then also had a trial court stint in Tisari with my senior Mr. Rashid Hashmi sir, again under whom I learned tremendously. So in 2014, then I started my own practice. I opened my own office, which goes by the name of Chambers of Jayant Bhatt. And now this is almost 7 to 8 years of independent practice and 14th year into the profession, where I'm still trying to find my feet and try to grow, and grow together with like-minded people.
Amazing, amazing. So one of our professor used to say that all lawyers are students of law and they keep evolving and growing throughout their life. So I think it's very well it very well implements on all of us, and especially hearing to your journey doing two masters and then opening up your chamber. Thank you so much for sharing that information. So I wanted to know, how did the idea of this choosing a new program with dual masters came up in your mind, and how did you choose the program back then?
Right. So I wanted to do two masters. Secretly, you always want to do more in life. But I thought right after law school, maybe I'll end up doing two masters in two different continents. And I was looking for US as my first preference. And when I looked at different cities, New York University is situated out of New York. So I was looking onto their website when I read that there is this new program that the university is trying to collaborate with National University of Singapore in Singapore, and that's how it came about. I applied, and luckily, I got through. I was one of the youngest batch members, of my first batch. We had a batch ranging from people I think back then I was 22 or 23, and the eldest person in my batch was 44. So you can imagine the range. There were people with a 20-year age gap, and it was a very small batch of about 45 people, and very rigorous program. I had about, I think, 15 courses that I had to finish in 10 months time. So I did that, and having done that, started with my legal journey of learning more law, by entering the profession.
Amazing, amazing. So then you started with Chambers of Jayant Bhatt, and what was the reason behind it? Why didn't people find themselves more comfortable in job, and sometimes it becomes so comfortable that they don't want to leave that and start their own independent practice or own law firm or own chamber. So what was your idea behind going independent or starting on with your chamber and building
Right.
up your
So
business?
right. So, look, the dream always was to have your own practice, build your own office. And in my case, most of the things have come by default and not by design. As a first generation lawyer, you have to learn every type of work, which I did. I'm not saying I've mastered everything, but in our profession, in our industry, you always every day you learn something new. And as I said, starting with the law firm to joining a seniors chamber, then doing AOR and trial work, I almost did everything. And by virtue of practicing in different chambers, you also get to cater to a very type of clientele. If you're working
Yes.
with the firm, they will have a different set of clients. If you're working for a senior, they will have different type of briefings. So most of the time, lawyers and law firms are their clients. And when you're working for an AOR, you see how Supreme Court is structured and how arguments advance Supreme Court. When you're doing hardcore trial court work and appellate work, you realize how a case begins to formulate, and the whole trial process you get to see unfold in front of you. And once I did all this, obviously money becomes a very important factor. You can be associated with the chamber, but unfortunately, so far as the litigation practice goes, if you want to be associated with any chamber, the money may not be very promising. The financial aspects can be very dim. And considering that, it's always prudent to learn, work, and move on. If you can open your own office, if you think you have that basic confidence in yourself, which by God's grace I think I always had. Never for a moment did I doubted myself that I cannot do something, because people around me were doing fantastic things. And you always draw inspiration from uh, inspiring people around you. And when
Yeah.
you look at established seniors, when you look at established law firms, when you see their life journey or hear about their life journey, that tends to motivate you in your own way. And I don't think there is a right time to start your own practice. But having said that, I always tell young audience and younger lawyers and law students that please do not, uh, jump the ship. Do your tutelage as a junior lawyer, as a junior associate for at least few years. That time can be determined by you. It can be 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, depending on the level of your comfort with your senior, and the time that you want to give yourself before you want to venture in your own field. But these two things are, I think, very different. Uh,
Yes.
you may be happy being an employee all your life. There is a safety net of income coming your way. There is sustenance. There is you know a guaranteed growth at every juncture in your career. As an employer, when you jump and dream of being an entrepreneur, this is legal
Yeah.
entrepreneurship in a way. You have to take that plunge, and you uh, you have to have that appetite to mitigate the risks which come your way. So for example, there may be business losses that you may be incurring almost monthly or yearly or quarterly, and you should have the wisdom to write them off. So I think that is very important. I think it comes with time. Since I went independent, I've had my share of profits and losses, but it has made me wiser. Every year and every passing day, I think I'm better today in terms of handling my clients, handling my cases, handling my staff, as I was when I started my journey as an independent litigator. So I think life is a great teacher. You have to take one day at a time, and keep up with the pace of learning. I think that is very important.
Correct, correct. So yeah, it's absolutely interesting to know one day at a time and just keep on learning every day. Because sometimes what happens is we face one setback or one failure, or we commit one mistake and we make it so big in our head that it becomes very difficult to stand up the next day. So if we are okay with taking risk, okay to accept that failures would come, mistakes would happen, and things like that would happen, we have capability to get up the next day and probably perform again. So I think that is another beauty of legal entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship as a whole. So yeah, so sir, now coming to your, your strategy of doing digital, making your digital presence and being out there on LinkedIn with I think 35,000 plus followers and everything. How did you start that, and how did that came up in your mind?
Right. So far as the digital presence is concerned, there doesn't have to be a deliberate, concerted effort, so as to say. And the credit for my being on LinkedIn definitely goes to my ex-interns who later became my associates, because it was them, I think, in 2018 who prompted me and persuaded me to form an online profile on LinkedIn. I was very shy, very old school, just like a typical lawyer, saying that, look, the word of mouth has to travel for your work. And they said, okay, that's fine, but people are reading about your, internship, people are reading about your offices, people are talking about you, but they don't know who you are, and you do not have a public profile. So at least give us the liberty. So I said, okay, please make my LinkedIn profile. So they were the ones who actually made my, LinkedIn profile, and later gave me the password, which I, accessed. And from 2018, then slowly I realized that I first did not know what to do on LinkedIn, and I don't consider my list of connections as my followers. To be very honest, I am very grateful for everybody who has connected or got connected to me on LinkedIn, virtually, because they thought perhaps I was adding some sort of value in their day-to-day life. But when
Yes.
when I started my journey in 2018, June to be very precise, that was when my profile, I think, became active on this platform. And I was not on Facebook. Instagram had very limited, traction for me that way. Now I'm off late also becoming active on Instagram in terms of creating memes, legal memes, because I think that helps me connect with the youth in its own
Yes.
way. So there are two different challenges, because there are three platforms besides my practice that I am focusing on. One obviously is LinkedIn, where I think I must write something positive or something worthy to be read on a daily basis. Then there is Instagram, which is a fun platform to engage with, other part of the country, which likes memes, jokes, even perhaps some serious talks and news things to be shared. Then there is YouTube, where I'm running my own channel called See You Soon, where I'm doing again similar to what you're doing, chat series, where I'm also inviting guests, legal luminaries, from different walks of life, and trying to do my bit for the profession by giving younger audiences insight into their life, their legal journey, and how they have, or what are the challenges that they see in the country and in the world over, and how best we can bridge a gap which we see amongst us. So again, coming back to answer your questions on LinkedIn platform, I think it's one of the very toughest platforms to crack. One, because it's a thoroughly professional platform. You see people from different industries, different verticals already being there. People like to share their achievements, people like to share their knowledge, people like to share their work ethics, culture, and news related to that on that platform. So you cannot mimify that platform. That is number one. Number two, you have to be serious about the type of information that you're sharing with your connections. I think that is very important. And
Yes.
third, you should never be afraid of imparting, information or knowledge to other people, because it always manifolds. So there's an old saying in Hindi which says, "Gyan baantne se badhta hai." So I think that is very
Amazing.
important. If you keep the knowledge to yourself, chances are you will stint your own growth. But to magnify your own growth in terms of both intellectual, professional, emotional, and personal, one should never be afraid to share things. Doesn't matter if it's Instagram, doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn, doesn't matter if it's YouTube. We all have a very limited life cycle, lifespan, and if we can formulate something noteworthy for other people to take inspiration from or to get knowledge from, I think that's what I do. So there is no maths involved when I'm writing something. I'm not looking at the number of people who are getting connected, for the simple reason that when I started out writing, there were very limited people who were appreciating my post, and constantly that tribe has only increased. People still message me directly, they thank me for my post. Some of the sweet messages which come, so much so that say that, we are looking forward to your post, why are you not posting on a Sunday? And I say, Sunday is my off day. There is one day I like to take off, and 6 days I deliberately push myself to write something. It may be a joke, it may be a humor or wit, it may be legal news, it may be my take on something which may happen in the country, or international news which may have caught my attention. So it depends, on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes I may just write my observation of what happened either with me or with some fellow lawyer in the court if I'm observing the matter while waiting for my own matters. So at the end of the day, I don't think it's rocket science. It is how you want to share your own thought and your thought process with the world. And if people resonate with it, I think you have achieved something. You don't have to impress or try to impress everybody. You can't do that. That's humanly impossible. But then there will be always people who will be attracted towards your thought process. And if you can help even motivate one person by your words, by your thoughts, by your act of writing, I think that task is achieved. So I think that's the simple answer to your difficult question.
Amazing, sir. Amazing. I'm so inspired by whatever you said just now because I keep telling people. So I'll share a personal story. I'll not take names. So last year, what happened? So someone asked me like, Prigya, how did you start your law firm, and how did you come up with your practice, and how did you start building clients? So I was the one who probably used to post every day something on intellectual property on LinkedIn. So I did it for around 6 months, and everything started happening itself. I didn't have to worry about things because whenever people used to, have a conversation with me, they used to say, "Oh, you post very good articles on intellectual property." And apart from I never wrote an article on LinkedIn. It was just small snippets on IP. It hardly took 5-10 or half an hour, 5-10 minutes or half an hour to do that. So I told one of my friend that you should also start doing this, and I'm sure things would work. It's tried and tested method. So after 1 year, he called me again, Prigya, how should I start my practice? I told him the same thing. Start posting on LinkedIn every day. He said, Prigya, ये तो last year भी बताया था ना. तो मैंने कहा किया क्या? So he was like, okay, I'll do it from today. So this happens because people are not able to foresee the outcome it might give. I never thought that through LinkedIn I'll build my profile in such a manner. I just gave a task to myself. Every day I'll do this. So the kind of work you are doing and putting value out there in the life of people, I think all youth young lawyers and everybody is following you, and uh, I can't thank you enough for your post because I read it myself. So thank you
That's
so
very
much for
kind. Thank you.
thank you so much for that. So sir, just to know that with digitization and everything, we are in the era where we are still in the era where lawyers cannot promote them, they can't advertise, they can't even somehow use the level of digitalization that other professions can do. So do you have any take on this, that how can we improve or maybe reach to people organically in some manner so that it might help lawyers to build their practice? So how do you
Right.
look
I
at
think I think I'll
digitization?
let me. I think it's a great question, but I'll answer it in two parts. First, let me tell you the positive impact of digitization and then the negative impact.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the same order, but let me try to attempt. See, the thing is, we have had technology for a very long time now. Not as long as the human civilization, but in terms of our IT laws and
Yeah.
IT rules and how technology has emerged, especially now we are entering into era of 5G and more smartphones perhaps in the future. But imagine this: if everybody had to get work through digital platform, we would all be billionaires by now. But that's not the reality. We
Yes.
have to, especially in the legal field, we have to think of ideas of how to generate work. But you can only generate work because traditionally our profession is still very old school. People still come to you either when they like something about you, or they've seen you argue in court, or they have read judgments with your names in it, or somebody has put in a good word for you, which is again goodwill in the market,
Yes.
and that takes time. For example, in some of the developed countries, including US, there are advertising which is allowed for the lawyers. But consider this: is every lawyer who is advertising themselves, including the firms or independent lawyers, are again getting the same amount of clientele? Yes, it helps you reach more people, definitely, because everybody is using their laptops, their phones, their desktop, etc., to access information. But then how do you believe who is good and who is not good? That becomes a big question. The second thing is, the moment you keep on bragging about yourself that I am the best lawyer in the market, come to me, chances are that people may not trust you for the simple reason your work has to speak for itself. Um, for example, let's say you have to buy a packet of biscuit, right? Or a packet of chips. You will look at least 4 to 5 brands, and the brand which is most prevalent, which has the best taste when you open that packet, has is going to build that trust for you. Similarly, there are 100 brands which sell milk products, breads, biscuits, cookies, etc. Or there are 10 restaurants maybe around you which may offer, let's say, pizza and pasta. But you will only go to that shop which gives you the best comfort, best value for money, and which gains your trust. So law is no different. I may say that I'm the best lawyer, or I argued in this case yesterday, this is the judgment, this is the order, but that is the role that I'm already doing, and that every lawyer before me and after me, and even my colleagues are doing on a day-to-day basis. You are a lawyer, you are practicing, I am a lawyer, I am practicing. So we are no different in terms of our IQs or in terms of our merit and our labor toward the profession. We are all industrious people, we are all diligent people, and we all abide by the rule of law, and we are at the end of the day officers of the court. But that is one leg of the argument. The second is how to build your growth organically. I think that is very important thing that you added, because organic growth is something that people tend to miss. Today, law students, even elder lawyers, younger lawyers are looking at a viral post which goes viral on a reel or on a TikTok or on a YouTube, etc. But please understand, those viral posts may generate views perhaps once or twice, but not all the time. That is number one. That viral post, by and large, either may be a piece of controversial news information, or maybe a piece of funny video clip, or maybe a piece of freak accident, or whatever it may be. But it is not legal, so as to say. To fight a legal battle or to give a legal advice, there is a process to it. It's like cooking. So you
Yeah.
have to have all the ingredients in place. You should know how to use those ingredients. And for that, we have the whole system of legal education that you undergo, that you have to understand how law is practiced, how law is taught, and then to apply that law from theory to practice, we all practice. And that's why the practice is called the practice, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea about it. So don't be in a rush. People, if they think by making a digital portfolio, perhaps you may become famous. I'm not saying fame is something which is very different from being a good lawyer.
Yes.
A famous lawyer
Absolutely.
may perhaps not be a good lawyer, but I have seen most of the good lawyers are famous by and large, because they're good at their work, and that is what the defining characteristic is. So don't run after fame. I think run after good work. That is very important. Once you start getting work, it doesn't have to be the biggest fraud in the country. It can be the poorest of the client who may come to you, but if you do their case properly, that's enough. So, for example, look at our industry. You are sitting in Dehradun, I'm sitting in Delhi. Are the courts in Dehradun not equally laborious, hardworking, and sincere as the district courts in Delhi? A
Yes.
judge who is sitting, a judicial magistrate who is sitting there, or a metropolitan who is sitting in a Delhi court, they're still getting up on time, going to court at 10 o'clock in the morning, still sitting at 4 and doing their duties, and still not bragging about it on social media saying, look, I sat from 10 to 4 and I delivered so and so judgments, or I sat over 50 cases. They are doing their job. Similarly, we are also doing our job. So let's not brag about what we are doing, but let's, as I said, if you are on a digital platform, educate people, inform people, empower them. And that is, I think, the trait which can distinguish and make a lawyer stand out from the crowd. And I think that is very important.
I think the best manner in which the law students and legal professions can, reach to more people organically is educate, inform, and empower people. If we add value to the lives of people, then I'm sure, uh, there will be no limits to your reach, or people will want to come to you and work with you in that sense. So I think
Absolutely.
that is really really important, and thank you for sharing this information with us. So sir, now coming to your YouTube channel, it has a very interesting name called Suyu Soon. So first question is, how did you come to this name? Because it's unique and it's very interesting.
Right. So it was just a matter of chance. I was about to name my channel the Yellow Sofa that you see behind me. And I thought maybe, but by then, because pandemic second wave had come, and I thought I'm sitting at home, maybe, this yellow sofa, has a nice color to it. Maybe I can call my show a Yellow Sofa, but then it will not be perhaps purely legal. And though I was trying to, put a legal awareness out there. And then I was in my office and I was talking to my colleagues and my associates, and I said, and I was just talking, I think we were just recording a preliminary episode before the chat series started. And I said, at the end, if I say see you soon, it can also be interpreted as sue you soon. So perhaps, at the end you generally say people, right? I mean, you are meeting your friends and you are bidding goodbye. So you say, see you soon. I'm like, see you soon sounds phonetically very similar to see you soon. So why not name it see you soon? And then I did some online research whether the domain name is taken, whether YouTube has a similar, tagline or it. And luckily for me, there was none. So I went to GoDaddy, blocked the domain for 2 years, and then opened this. Asked my colleague quickly to open a YouTube channel. At least let's block the See You Soon
The
name,
name.
and that's how it started. Yeah.
Wow, wow, wow. And I know it's such a interesting name that it just catches the eye. Oh, sue you soon. It has to be something with law and or something with chats and law and interesting. I think lawyers sometimes they take themselves too seriously and they're too serious all the time. But
Yeah.
I think we should add some fun element to legal profession as well, as young lawyers generate that empathy and excitement in everyone's life, and probably teach them that let's live a life in a different manner and everything,
Absolutely.
grow
Absolutely.
together, learn together, and educate together. Very interesting. So sir, what was your idea in mind when you started with Suyu Soon as a whole? And yeah, both your LinkedIn and Suyu Soon, and like what was your key focus, that apart from giving value, was there something else, or you would suggest that lawyers should do more of probably building in the digital presence?
Right. So I think the inspiration came from the younger generation because in the first wave of pandemic, when the lockdown happened, I was invited into a number of webinars by law schools, young students, young bodies,
Yes.
other organizations, and it really took me by surprise as to how much of entrepreneurship there is in the country. There were young law students who were going all out, all guns blazing, interviewing lawyers, picking up their brain, asking questions. But I thought there was a huge lag in terms of their spirit, and sometimes perhaps I would say for the lack of experience, the type of right questions which perhaps could have been asked of a lawyer. So it really inspired me from the youth, to say that if they can do it, why is nobody in the legal industry doing this? Why are we not asking questions? Because I already had come across certain YouTube channels which were doing reasonably well, where people were having a monologue, making a 5 to 10 minute of a program, educating people. That was already there. But I did not see any lawyer interviewing another lawyer. And I'm like, that is bizarre. Yes, we take ourselves too seriously and everything, but we also have a basic duty towards the citizens of this country, and how
Correct.
to legally educate them and empower them. And also the law students. So if a law student comes to me, their question would be very restricted to moot courts, debates, internships, etc. But they miss the bigger picture because they have not entered the profession. And I thought it is
Correct.
also my duty now to educate them, because if multiple student organizations, bodies, and law schools have taken this step, what am I doing, right? And by the time the second wave came, and when the second wave came, I took this opportunity to start this channel. I was doing a mini episodes myself at the start, but I thought, let me start the chat series, and I started reaching out to people, my friends, people I did not know, some of them through LinkedIn, some of them through friends of friends, and they were all very kind enough to come on the show. My first season is almost complete, so as to say, I think two more episodes remain to be aired now, which have already been pre-recorded. And maybe I'm giving myself some rest time, because every podcast or every interview runs for at least 1 hour to 2 to 3 hours, some of them,
Yes,
and
yes.
it really took some energy out of me, because it was doing your own court work, then you are even to write a post, sometimes you have to think, and then recording these programs, reaching out to people. So in simple layman terms, it took the juice out of me. So I thought, look, let me now rest, because I had other commitments. I was already doing my lectures, my webinars, my teaching, my virtual courts, my actual courts, meeting clients. So the day was becoming really packed, and I thought I need to give myself some leeway. Now that this channel is started, now that people are getting to know about it, these episodes are there for the betterment of law schools, law students, so that the burning questions that they may have, the elementary questions about whether to do a master's or not, how to go about internship, how did a particular lawyer did the legal journey, those basic questions are taken care of. Once these questions are taken care of, they can look at the bigger picture of what are the new laws which are going to come in the country, how should we read them, how should we debate about them, how should we deliberate about them. So my idea always is how to bring a smarter crop of lawyers in the country, because if you're only fixated in the elementary questions, then at least my episodes to some extent are answering those questions. Now that you've gotten your answer on how to go about law school 3 year or 5 year, how to build your internship, how to build your CV, you have journey of at least 70 odd lawyers that I've interviewed now. and
Amazing.
my interviews are already available by and large on Google, so you can always plug them in if you need any extra information. So once all this information is there on a digital platform, it's like a digital archive, that has been made for times to come. Till the time YouTube is there, these videos will be there. So anybody can access them. It's a free access. People have come out of their goodwill to share, and this also shows the greatness of a profession and the extreme generosity of all the lawyers who have come on the program to give back to the society in their own way. So I'm really grateful for all of them to have spared some time, come and have spoken to me at length for all the benefit of a younger audience, older audience also. I've received messages from people in their 50s and 60s also who are watching this program with keen interest. And then the other, I think the challenge that I thought I had was how to make the program accessible to people. I've had recorded English episodes, obviously, but I thought that Hindi chat series was by and large missing in the country because a larger fraction of people, still in remote villages, smaller towns, are well equipped in speaking and understanding Hindi. So I think that was a natural choice for me because I have also come from smaller towns in the country before I shifted to Delhi, and I thought Hindi being the mother language, at least it's my mother tongue, would give me an opportunity to polish it a little more and talk to people in Hindi was a different experience altogether. And to be honest, I think people on the program also enjoyed extremely conversing in Hindi because that's how as friends you talk to each other.
Yes,
There is
yes.
there is a formality and a finesse in your own language when you're trying to express your thoughts. So I think that was phenomenal, and the support that we have garnered so far I think is tremendous. And I just hope that more people can access to our channel, and in future maybe give us some fresh ideas to how to expand it and how to benefit the society. I think
Definitely.
that's the eventual goal.
It's kind of a bulb-on moment for me to listen to your perspective of your YouTube channel. So what happens with like I'll again share some personal story because I keep sharing the stories because that's how we relate to people and their how they help us in our transformation. So what happened? I just remember that I think a few days ago, a few of my interns, we have these regular meetings with the interns and with our junior lawyers. So we were discussing something about legal aspects and everything, and they were like, "We want to learn more of law. We want to learn more of law." As I asked him, what is his life goal like? What what does he eventually want to do in future after 5 years or after completing law? So he said, I want to start with my law practice as soon as possible and I want to start build a law firm. It's my clear goal. So I said, what it does take to build up that law firm is not only the legal aspect and the legal knowledge, but our day to day activities and struggle are with things like how do we manage our finances, how do we manage our calendar, how do we manage how do we build our clients, how to do make our digital presence,
Yes,
if we have committed some mistakes, how to take care of them, if how to build a team. So with all these aspects in mind, I think legal education or law students, they do not understand the importance of these factors, and it's through these chat shows like yours and mine that we can spread this kind of awareness that these skills are also necessary, and it's important to learn both aspects, the legal aspects of it. I'm not saying that don't learn legal aspects, learn them, because that is the, if you are not good at it, you will not be a good lawyer. So that is absolutely important, but apart from that, these skills are also important. So thank you so much. I got like it got imbibed in me that what I am also doing is probably the right thing. So it just gives me inspiration speaking to you in this aspect. Thank you so much for that. So, sir, another question which pops in my mind is: Are you a fan of some social media accounts that you follow and take inspiration from? I think that will help a lot of audience to understand who are the other people they can follow.
right. So not just social media. I'm a fan of lot many people. Because people around us always inspire us. They may be
Yes.
in a family. They may be in fiction. They may be people who are great writers. People who are great actors. So everybody around me inspires me in some way. there are innumerable people. So I would not just limit myself to social media. There are certain people I follow, uh, you know, uh, some on LinkedIn. Some of them are influencers. Some of them are good thought leaders whose thoughts I particularly appreciate. So you can just find them because LinkedIn also gives you that column of profiles to follow. So, and
Correct.
I think everybody has a different liking. So for example, let's say if I have a interest in intellectual property, or if I have a interest in business and finance, there are different people talking about those things. If you're interested in law, there are different people who are talking about law. So there are a lot of varieties, but I always encourage people to also read books, watch OTTs. You can draw
Yes.
inspiration from different directors, how the movies are made, how books are written, how thoughts are executed on paper. So I think that's equally important. So there's a mix and match of things which brings out a best in any individual. I think so. It may be a song which may inspire you while you may be driving. It may be your clients and their incredible stories in terms of their entrepreneurship or how they have developed their business, which may inspire you. It may be your parents who may inspire you. So I don't think inspiration has to be only found on social media. It can come from any corner, and just keep your eyes and ear open. I think that is very important, which people are forgetting in the age of digitization.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, the thing is, I would really want to know what are the people or books, maybe books that changed your life. There are some elements which I keep saying, like a book called Atomic Habit changed my life. Following probably Brendan Butchard changed my life. So, who are those inspiring people who you think changed you as a person or helped you reach to whatever you are today?
So I'm also reading James Clear, Atomic Habits. I have not finished it. I'm halfway through it. I'm reading different books. I'm reading something on coaching and leadership skills by Ruchira Chaudhary. I'm also reading Ken Follett's Evening, Morning and Evening. Right now, it's a novel. I finished a fiction yesterday called Murder at a Mushaira. There are different books which are already lined up. I also finished Dilip Kumar Saab's biography 2 3 weeks ago. I also finished Indira Nooyi's biography last month when the book was released. So there are different books, and this is just very recent readings of mine which I've done in the past month or so. And in a life that you have lived, you have read different things, you have absorbed different things. So that's why I say one book or one person doesn't change or doesn't channelize your life. Yes, some of them may have a tremendous impact on your personality, but as I said, like you yourself named 2 3 books, right? So one book will not give you all the guidance in the world. And similarly, there are so many excellent and interesting people online. You can follow them, but as I said, it's a very individualistic trait. So for example, I may like aloo ki sabzi, you may not like aloo ki sabzi. you
Correct,
know
correct,
you may like
absolutely.
you may like non-veg, I may not like non-veg. So every person is different. And as I said, these are the some of the authors that I've read. Some of the authors which are already waiting to be finished on my bookshelf are there. So I may read a book which you may find completely drab and boring. So that's why I don't recommend people to read these books or follow these books, because it's like eating. It's like food and clothing. I may like color blue and you may like, what are you wearing? I like pink. So it's just like that. So everybody has a different
Absolutely.
palette. So that's why I don't like to impose my choices on people. I like them to make their own, and that's why I don't believe in name dropping and saying, you read this, you read this, unless I think it's absolutely essential. It's a bestseller. You would come to know about it through Amazon anyway. But with me, I'm not a voracious reader. But if I find a book to my liking, or if I'm just browsing and if it interests me, the story or a tagline or something about the person, I just put it in my cart and then later order it when I have some money lying in my savings.
Amazing, amazing. So, this is the correct perspective. So, uh, like I said, I was not a reader most of my life, and I got into reading very recently, like 3 4 years. It has been that I've been reading continuously. So the thing was, what I personally believe is I was not into reading because I was not able to find the kind of books I like. The moment I actually figured out what is the genre I like, I fell in love with reading. So I think finding the right genre, right people, what you like and what you love is something which can, like, some people they struggle with, I can't read, I'm not a reader. They'll just say that I'm not a reader. But the thing is, probably they might have not reached to the right book which just attracts them. And sometimes, like, like you said, it something attracts about a book or a person. We just see it and then we click it and we're like, oh, I want to read this, what's written in there. So yeah, so that is an amazing side of looking at it. So thank you so much for that. So sir, to conclude, if you were to share or suggest three skills that every lawyer should learn, or yeah, every lawyer should learn, what according to you would be those skills? So if you can share those skills with.
I think I always use a tagline which says get up, suit up, and show up. So
Yeah,
these are the three things which I always buttress upon, because that is the power of consistency. You have to be consistent every day. You have to make that promise to yourself that you will get up on time, you will get dressed up, and you have to show up either for work or for court or whatever conviction you have or whatever things you believe in. I think that is extremely important. And people undermine the power of consistency, and how to and with consistency comes hard work and perseverance, and your the finesse which goes with it. So these are the things that you have to work on every day, because you only have to work on yourself. You don't have to work on anybody else to make the world better. If you can work on yourself and make the world a better place, that's your contribution to the world. And people most of the time are trying to change other people around them. So change yourself, and
yeah,
if with that positive change people can draw inspiration from you, great. I would also say, as lawyers, read as much as possible, and not just textbooks or judgments, because that to you have to read by default in law school. If you want to be a lawyer, either as a part of curriculum or as a part of a client service, you will have to read them. But read non-fiction, read biographies, read comics, read whatever interests you, because reading gives you that that grasping power, that vision, to think about things. It also gives you the ability to express yourself better, because when you read more, you realize how other people have the power of putting their thoughts, on paper. So I think that is very important. And third, I think enjoy life to the best extent possible. Don't compare yourself. That I think is really futile. For example, if you get upset that your neighbor is driving a Mercedes and you're driving a Maruti, I don't think it's going to take you anywhere. So those are futile, comparisons. If reading in your book, reading a book in your room, with your family being around, with your friends being around, gives you happiness. If going out with them, watching a nice movie, having a popcorn gives you happiness, be happy. Enjoy the moment. I think that's very important, because life is something which has to be lived on a day-to-day basis. Uh, I'm I'm not saying that there's anything wrong in having an expensive car. Have it by all means if that gives you happiness, and driving at 200 kilometers per hour. Maybe the adrenaline rush is something you're looking for, but that will be momentary, right? What a lasting happiness is about is how much have you contributed to others' life. It's something like this. If you have the knowledge, and if you have the power to share that knowledge, and you have the privilege to share that knowledge, then others can also get illuminated by the light by which you are trying to guide the world. And I think that is very important. So to all my young viewers, young audience here, who are going to get connected through your program, I can only appeal and encourage all of you to do good and stay good in the world. I think that's very important. With so much negativity around, we can definitely do with some positivity.
amazing. I'll try to reiterate this for our viewers. So sir mentioned the most important skills are showing up, be consistent, show up, read. Reading will give you ability to think better in an analytical way, and enjoy life. Don't take life too seriously. Do whatever you want to stay happy. If you are happy, you are contributing to the life of people around you. I'm sure you'll do good in life. So thank you so much. With that, I would like to thank you, Jayant sir, so much for being on the show. And it would be very, very helpful for all our audience to listen to you. And if you're not following on LinkedIn, I'm sure you're missing something. Just uh, find him on LinkedIn and press the follow button right away. So thank you so much, Jayant sir, for being on the show.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for having me, and again, all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you. Hey there, thank you for joining us. If you liked today's session, do follow our channel and consider sharing it with a friend. My name is Prigya Arora, daughter of inspiring parents, alumna of IIT Kharagpur, engineer turned lawyer and entrepreneur, and now founder of PA Legal, where we help creators and innovators protect their intellectual property. Thank you.